Hey everybody, so this is the group, the combined wolf packs, getting ready to move back to Alaska.
It's been years since Alaskan Bush People last aired on TV, but for many fans, the Brown family never really left their hearts. The show was more than just entertainment. It was a deep dive into the lives of a unique American family that dared to live off the grid, facing the Alaskan wilderness head-on, while maintaining a lifestyle built on grit, survival, and unbreakable family bonds. When it premiered back in 2014 on the Discovery Channel, it captured imaginations across the globe. The idea of leaving behind modern conveniences and choosing to struggle in the wild might have seemed eccentric to some. But to the Brown family, it was a chosen way of life. Week after week, we watched as they battled cold winters, hunted for food, built shelters by hand, and leaned on each other in moments of despair. And while much of the show revolved around their resilience in the wild, what really kept viewers coming back was the humanity behind it, all the raw emotion. The family dynamics, the quiet courage, and sometimes the deep scars. Now years later, the cameras are no longer rolling. But life has continued for the Browns, some of it triumphant, some tragic, and some lost to silence. As we peel back the curtain on what's become of the family, the reality is more complex and heartbreaking than the show ever revealed. Some have passed away, their legacies frozen in time. Others have stumbled down darker paths, caught in legal troubles or personal demons. Today we take a deep and emotional journey to uncover the truth behind the cast members of Alaskan Bush People who are dead or in jail in 2025, and how their lives have forever changed since we last saw them on screen. Billy Brown was without question the beating heart of the Brown family. A rugged patriarch who carried the weight of survival on his shoulders, Billy's presence on the show was magnetic. But behind that stoic face and mountain man exterior was a story filled with unimaginable pain and a will forged in fire. Born on December 3, 1952, in Fort Worth, Texas. Billy didn't come from a family of wilderness dwellers, far from it. His early life was spent in the comfort of an upper-middle-class neighborhood, surrounded by stability and promise. But everything changed when, at just 16 years old, Billy lost his entire immediate family, his mother, father, and sister, in a tragic plane crash. Alone and grieving. He was soon coerced into signing emancipation papers that legally separated him from his family's estate, leaving him not just emotionally but financially abandoned. He drifted for a while, eventually finding purpose and grounding. In the rugged world of commercial fishing in the North Pacific, it was there that he met the love of his life, Amy, and together they would go on to have 7 children and build a life that defied convention. But Billy's vision was clear. A life lived on their own terms, far from the noise of modern civilization. Over 12 seasons, viewers watched him guide his family through Alaska's brutal winters, food shortages, and emotional turbulence. But few knew of the battle he fought behind the scenes of battle against his own body. In 2019, Billy began experiencing serious breathing issues, later diagnosed as the result of a weakened heart. Doctors warned him repeatedly. The high-altitude living had to stop if he wanted to survive. But for Billy, the wild was his church, his sanctuary. He made it clear to his family that he'd rather die in the place he loved than be confined to a hospital bed in the city. On February 7, 2021, that day came. Billy passed away suddenly after suffering a seizure at the age of 68. His son, Bear, confirmed the heartbreaking news on Instagram, calling his father their best friend, their guide, and their hero. The loss shook not just the Brown family, but millions of viewers who had grown to love the man behind the legend. In the episodes that followed, his children and wife paid emotional tribute. With son Bam Bam reflecting, "Dad always told us one day we would have to carry on without him, but we weren't ready for him to go. Truly, how could anyone be?" The story of Amber Branson is perhaps one of the most tragic and under-discussed chapters in the Alaskan Bush People saga. Though she wasn't a central figure in the show, Amber Amy Brown's niece appeared in early episodes and was, by all accounts, a vibrant and deeply loved member of the extended family. Born on February 8, 1976 in Wichita Falls, Texas, Amber was known for her warm spirit, generosity, and a heart that poured out kindness to everyone she met. She married Sean Austin and had 2 sons, Braden and Jace, but life was never entirely smooth for her. After parting ways with her husband, Amber struggled with the kind of invisible battles that don't show up on camera: mental illness, emotional pain, and addiction. In what would become a slow and painful descent, Amber began using substances in an effort to cope. At first, there was hope signs that she was gaining control. But addiction is a brutal opponent, and Amber eventually relapsed. In April 2020, tragedy struck in the most horrific way imaginable. Amber set fire to her own home in Hudson Oaks, Texas. When first responders arrived, they found her lying in the yard, suffering from burns over 90% of her body. According to her uncle Les Branson, she told police the act was self-inflicted and called it a test of faith. Was a psychotic break, a cry for help, or something even deeper? No one will ever fully understand. Her boyfriend found an empty gasoline can tossed over a neighbor's fence, and police later determined she had used insect repellent to start the blaze. Amber was rushed to a burn center in Dallas, but the doctors gave her family little hope. Her injuries were deemed non-survivable, and on April 30th, 2020, her family made the agonizing decision to remove her from life support. She passed away the next day. Her death sent shockwaves through the Brown family and their fan base. Amy, devastated by the loss of her niece, struggled publicly to express the depth of that pain. Fans who remembered Amber from her brief appearances couldn't help but mourn the loss of someone whose light had flickered out far too soon. In the end, Amber was more than just a side character. She was a reminder that not all wounds are visible. Not all stories get happy endings. Of all the Brown children, Bear Brown, whose full name is Solomon Isaiah Freedom Brown, was perhaps the most energetic, wild, and unpredictable. Born on June 10, 1987, Bear grew up embracing the extremes of wilderness life with a passion that earned him the nickname King of Extreme. From a young age, he showed a deep love for nature, animals, and physical challenges, while his brothers leaned more toward tools, mechanics, and problem-solving. Bear was the adrenaline junkie, the one climbing trees, running barefoot in the snow, and howling at the moon. He was also a fan favorite for those very reasons. But the same intensity that made Bear so compelling also led him into troubled waters. In 2018, he met Raven Adams at his brother Noah's wedding, and the connection was instant. Their relationship blossomed quickly, and soon they had a son together. But behind closed doors, things weren't always as picturesque as they appeared. Their romance became rocky, filled with emotional highs and lows that occasionally spilled into the public eye. Then, in March 2022, Bear was arrested in Washington state on domestic violence charges, specifically fourth-degree assault. According to law enforcement reports, there were no signs of alcohol or drug use, and no evidence of strangulation or choking. Bear spent a weekend in jail at Okanogan County before being released without bail. The story made headlines, and fans were stunned. Could the same man they'd seen howling in the forest really be facing these accusations? In April 2022, Bear entered a plea deal, and while the details remain somewhat private, he's since been working hard to rebuild his life and reputation. He's spoken about focusing on his son and being a better man, and he and Raven seem to be co-parenting with a sense of cautious peace. The incident serves as a sobering reminder that reality TV shows can only show us so much. Behind every dramatic shot and survival sequence are real people, flawed, complex, and sometimes capable of making mistakes they never thought they would. And then there's Joshua Bam Bam Brown, the second oldest Brown sibling, and perhaps the most introspective of them all. Born on September 18, 1984, Bam Bam was known for his calm demeanor, analytical mind, and a quiet strength that made him a backbone of the family operations. Unlike Bear, Bam Bam preferred problem-solving to adrenaline. He took to building shelters, fixing broken equipment, and devising clever ways to stretch their limited resources. Fans often praised him for being the smart one, the thoughtful strategist who held things together when chaos loomed. But even Bam Bam wasn't immune to life's curveballs. In 2016, he met Allison Kagan, a producer on the show, and what started as a professional relationship gradually turned into something deeper. Their bond led Bam Bam to take time away from filming to focus on his relationship, a move that was met with mixed reactions from fans and family alike. While some admired his courage to follow his heart, others questioned his commitment to the family's values and the show's authenticity. Over time, his appearances on Alaskan Bush People became fewer. And though he maintained a low-key presence on social media, many wondered if he'd permanently distanced himself from the wildlife. Rumors of legal trouble surfaced around 2023, when a tabloid reported that Bam Bam was briefly investigated for a property dispute involving a piece of land he had hoped to purchase for off-grid living. The story faded as quickly as it appeared, but it raised eyebrows nonetheless. Bam Bam never publicly confirmed or denied the report, and it remains one of those lingering mysteries in the Brown family narrative. What is clear, though, is that he continues to live life largely on his own terms, still close to nature, still quiet, still in many ways the most enigmatic of the Browns. His story doesn't end in scandal or tragedy, but rather in a kind of bittersweet silence that leaves fans wondering what's next. As the years go on, the story of the Alaskan Bush People becomes less about survival in the wilderness and more about survival in life itself. The Brown family was once the epitome of self-reliance and resilience. Now, they are a reflection of something more profound: how time, loss, and choices shape a legacy. From Billy's untimely passing to Amber's tragic end, from Bear's arrest to Bam Bam's quiet retreat, their stories are not so different from ours. They are marked by joy, sorrow, mistakes, and memories. While fans may never get a new season of the show, what remains is a deep well of emotion and nostalgia for a family that dared to live differently and paid the price in ways we're only just beginning to understand. The story of the Brown family, once celebrated as rugged survivalists living deep in the Alaskan wilderness, took a serious detour in 2014 that year. The family was hit with a wave of legal troubles that cast a long shadow over the authenticity and integrity of everything they had built on screen. Billy, Amy, and 4 of their children were suddenly facing 60 criminal charges related to fraud and theft charges that shocked fans and shook the foundations of the show. The core of the allegations revolved around a deception tied to the Alaska Permanent Fund, a yearly dividend paid to residents of the state. Between 2011 and 2013, the Brown family allegedly misrepresented their resident status in order to receive thousands of dollars in state-funded payments. Essentially, they claimed they were living in Alaska year-round, when they were, in fact, not. It was a scandal that in many ways seemed incompatible with the image the show had projected, a self-reliant, off-the-grid family committed to the land. When the truth surfaced, the fallout was immediate and severe. As the investigation unfolded, fans began to ask hard questions. Was the show just a well-produced illusion? Were the Browns as committed to their lifestyle as they claimed to be? Eventually, the legal process led to a plea deal. Billy and Joshua Brown, known affectionately to fans as Bam Bam, took responsibility and pleaded guilty to 1 misdemeanor count of second-degree, unsworn falsification. The price was steep. Billy had to pay back nearly $8,000 in dividends and an additional $10,000 in fines. Joshua was ordered to return over $1,100 and pay a $2,000 fine. Both were sentenced to 30 days in jail and required to complete 40 hours of community service. And perhaps most notably, they were permanently barred from ever applying for the Alaska dividend again. It was a fall from grace that neither father nor son ever anticipated, but it's one that profoundly altered public perception of the Brown family. Still, in true Brown fashion, they pressed on. Joshua, in particular, turned his attention toward more personal pursuits. He found solace and inspiration in photography, often posting breathtaking shots on social media. He explored his interest in fishing, technology, and even renewable energy, trying to build a life that moved beyond the headlines and back toward meaning. Despite the stain left by the scandal, Joshua remained one of the quieter, more grounded figures in the family, man shaped by the wilderness, but forever marked by the reality of the modern world. Rain Brown, the youngest of the Brown siblings, has always occupied a unique space in the family's dynamic. Born as Raindrop Brown in Hoona, Alaska, she was the baby of the family cherished, protected, and perhaps most sensitive to the weight of the family's chosen lifestyle. When viewers were first introduced to her, she was a spirited little girl caring for animals and playing with her toys in the snow-covered Alaskan forest. As she grew older, Rain began to show signs that she was markedly different from the rest of her family. While her brothers embraced rugged beards and flannel shirts, Rain gravitated toward fashion, books, and a slightly more mainstream expression of identity. Her favorite reads included Nancy Drew mysteries, though she developed a taste for matching outfits and staying as presentable as possible in the bush. But while her individuality made her a fan favorite, it also made her a lightning rod for controversy. Her troubles began when she joined TikTok in 2023 and was swiftly banned. With the platform mistakenly flagging her account as impersonation, she managed to recover the account after verifying her identity, but the damage was done. Trolls and critics began targeting her more aggressively, dissecting everything from her fashion choices to her relationship status. Then came the rumor speculation fueled by a mysterious ring seen in her Instagram posts. Was Rain engaged? Was she secretly married? With no confirmation coming from her, the gossip mill ran wild. Eventually, Rain revealed her relationship with Josiah Lorton, a head chef she met while working as a waitress in a local restaurant. In a touching Instagram post in early 2024, Rain gushed about their love, calling Josiah her protector, her angel, and her forever. The two were married by January 2025, a moment that seemed like a fairy tale ending 2 years of tabloid speculation. But life has a way of rewriting stories just when they seem settled, just months after their wedding. Rain and Josiah found themselves at the center of a shocking criminal investigation. In one of the most unexpected turns in the Brown family's post-show life, the couple was arrested for allegedly stealing $75,000 in cash, firearms, and other valuable items from Josiah's own uncle, Jason Aist. The accusations were staggering. According to court documents, Jason claimed that Josiah had helped him stash high-value items during a difficult divorce cash. Gold, wine, pistols, and even a marijuana bong, all of which were later discovered missing. Jason alleged that Josiah was the only person who knew the location of these goods. He also claimed that a neighbor had captured security footage showing Josiah and Rain on the property during the time frame the burglary occurred. Further, a responding officer reportedly saw Josiah with firearms resembling those listed as stolen. And both Josiah and Rain were allegedly seen in possession of some of the missing wine. The evidence painted a troubling picture. Both Rain and Josiah were charged with first-degree burglary and malicious mischief, while Rain was hit with an additional charge of second-degree criminal trespass. They were booked into the Okanagan County Jail, where they spent 3 days in custody before being released without bail. In court, the couple pleaded not guilty to all charges and were scheduled to appear at a later date. The public reaction was swift and polarized. For some fans, the idea that the once innocent baby of the Brown family could be involved in such a serious crime was unthinkable. Others were more skeptical, wondering if there was more to the story than met the eye. Rain finally broke her silence after the arrest. Posted a cryptic Bible verse on Instagram. "Judge not, lest the be judged." In the caption, she addressed her fans directly, expressing heartbreak over how quickly many turned against her. "It hurts my heart that my rainbows would choose to believe the lies," she wrote, referencing a former manager she accused of stealing $43,000 from her and mistreating her. While she didn't explicitly confirm or deny the burglary charges, her tone suggested betrayal and disbelief at how quickly public support had wavered. It was a raw, emotional moment, one that underscored just how much she'd grown up under the spotlight and how exhausting that life could be. Whether Rain and Josiah are guilty or innocent remains to be seen. But the impact on their lives and on the legacy of the Brown family is undeniable. For a family that had once thrived on isolation and simplicity, the glare of legal trouble and public scrutiny has become an ironic and painful chapter, as if legal battles and public controversies weren't enough. The show itself came under increasing fire as viewers and critics alike began to question the authenticity of Alaskan Bush People. For years, rumors had swirled that much of the series was staged, that scenes were scripted, conflicts manufactured, and living conditions exaggerated for dramatic effect. Critics accused the Discovery Channel of prioritizing entertainment over truth, presenting a romanticized version of wilderness living that bore little resemblance to actual bush life. Marketing materials often portrayed the Browns as entirely cut off from civilization. But off-camera reports suggested they spent more time in hotels and modern accommodations than the show let on. Residents of nearby Alaskan communities spoke out, claiming the family didn't possess the survival skills the show claimed and that they had little meaningful connection to traditional Alaskan culture. The show's editing, allegedly manipulated for drama, further fueled suspicions. Episodes were accused of fabricating timelines, rearranging dialogue, or stitching together events that didn't occur in real life. Viewers began to wonder, was this a documentary or a cleverly disguised drama series? At its core, Alaskan Bush People was always a story one about freedom, family, and resilience. But as the veil lifted and the lines between fact and fiction blurred, even the most loyal fans had to ask themselves whether the Browns were victims of media manipulation or complicit in creating a false narrative. What started as an inspiring tale of survival evolved into something murkier-filled, with lawsuits, arrests, accusations, and heartbreak. And as of 2025, it remains uncertain whether the family will ever return to television or if the public's appetite for their story has finally run dry. What is certain, though, is that their legacy, both good and bad, has left a mark. The Browns dared to live differently, and while they stumbled along the way, their journey continues to resonate. They are no longer just characters in a show. They are real people, navigating a world that doesn't offer retakes or second chances so easily. Whether or not Alaskan Bush People ever airs again, the story of the Browns will continue to unfold, quietly and chaotically like the wilderness they once called home.